Hello, and welcome to Digifabricators, the show where we learn how makers and artists use their computer driven tools for fun, art, and profit. I'm your host, Jeff Stein, aka A Weird Guy, and with me is my talented but humble co host, Al Schultz of New York Woodworks. Let's fire right into here with throw off the podcast disclaimer quick. Even though we pretend to be experts on the internet, I would like to point out that neither of us have any actual training and are just guys winging it in our shops and learning as we go. All advice provided is based on our personal experience and possibly inaccurate assumptions and is worth exactly what you pay for it. If listening to this show causes you to take out a loan to buy new and expensive digital tools, you may tell your spouse that it was our fault, but do so at your own risk.
Well, today's guest I get to introduce because he's a friend of mine. And 7 or 8 years ago, I knocked on the door of his business, and he's been trying to get rid of me ever since. He has never passed up a good restaurant. He loves a good bourbon or a cigar, an aficionado, if you will, so much to the point that he built a custom bar in his backyard. He is a sign manufacturer and he owns the company Next Gen Signs Incorporated. He's a really good friend of mine. Please welcome Tom Moore. How are we doing, Tom?
Good. How you guys doing today?
Great.
Nice to meet you.
Happy to have you here.
Yeah. So I'll just bump off. I'm interested in sign making history, like how it started, but just give us a quick thumbnail on how you started, how you got here, where you came from, just a brief, this is Tom.
Well, Tom started 30 years ago, 1995. I was working at UPS. My uncle had a sign shop since 1960. Everything was handmade, hand drawn, hand painted. Started helping him out because he needed a hand, and from there it just took off. Drug him into the digital age, which we're going to probably talk a lot about. I remember starting with him with hand pounce patterns. Didn't even have a computer, didn't know what a computer was, didn't have a plotter, didn't know what a plotter was, didn't even have a router. We had chisels for carved signs. He was set in his ways. He did not want to go towards the future of where this industry went. So I took over from him and just grew this business to what it is today. Started out 1,800 square feet. Well, actually, I started in my garage after my uncle passed away.
Single car, correct?
Single car garage in front of my house, with all his tools after he passed away, and just moved into another shop, which is 1,800 square feet. And now we're sitting in a 10,000 square foot shop with probably over $400,000 worth of equipment.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
And you're running
that's some upgrades.
It's a little bit of an upgrade.
Several employees.
Yeah, I got 3 full-time guys, me, and my wife is the, bookkeeper, secretary. It's just taken off.
She's really cute. It's nice having her up front.
Yeah. helps with the customers.
Yeah.
Don't piss her off though.
Right,
you don't want to do that. When you owe money, she's calling you.
Yeah.
She's like an unleashed dog at that point.
Yeah. So, what kind of digital equipment do you use in your day to day?
Everything. We have 2 cut plotters. We have 2 print plotters. One's a thermal, one's inkjet. We have a UV printer. We have what the laptop is sitting on is a laser engraver. We have a CNC machine. We have a digital shear machine. We have a laminator. And that's all the digital stuff we have. As far as programs, I have Corel. I have Omega. I have Aspire, the good one.
Mm-hmm.
Flexi Sign. Adobe Illustrator. It's all the programs I run. My favorite one that I use the most is the sign program because I started with that program when it was called Casmate. That was back in 1998. I drug my uncle into getting a computer and a plotter. And he's like, he did not want to do it. He dead set against it. It's like, we don't need it. It's not, the technology's not there. I'm like, yeah, but we got to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So we bought the old big giant monitors of 10 foot deep and 3 foot wide. And we
Yeah.
got Casmate, very simple type to text, could do a few things in it. We had a 36-inch plotter, and we started cutting vinyl. And we realized that once he got it, he realized, hey, this is where the future of the sign industry is going. Because, like I said, when I started with him in '95. We used to draw all our stuff on paper, pounce it onto a sign.
What's pouncing?
Pouncing is when you have a draw on paper and you take it's a little tiny wheel, you roll around, puts these little tiny microscopic holes in it. We would hold it up, tape it up on the truck or on a sign, pounce it with a chalk thing, pull it off. You draw it on the truck, then you take a brush. I got brushes out there my uncle had from 1940, and we would just hand paint everything. Then we realized, well, we got a vinyl plotter. Now we can cut vinyl, because a lot of people back in the day with trucks, they didn't care if it was hand painted. They would keep a truck for 20 years. Nowadays, people are getting rid of a truck 3-5 years. They lease it. So vinyl became, well, you can make it on vinyl, put it on, last 3-4 years, take it off like it wasn't even there. We started making patterns with it instead of drawing everything on by hand. Now we were drawing it on the computer. My uncle still hated it at some things, especially like kerning with computer generated fonts. Sometimes you have to tighten up an A next to a P because of the A at an angle and the P's on the top. You would have this big gap on the computer.
Right.
When you're doing it by hand, you learn that stuff. The kerning's got to be a little bit tighter. But the program's got to that point now where you can mess with kerning and you can do all that stuff. So it took him a little while to get used to that. But then once we did that, then it moved on to the next thing. I'm like, instead of hand carving signs with a chisel, how about we buy a plunge router? He's like,
Right.
I guess, it progressed from there. I mean, unfortunately, he passed away before
he saw full tech.
Before he saw full tech. I mean, I started doing wraps like the year before he passed away. He didn't even know what wrap material was and how do you bend it around a fender. But he was also in his late 70s and wasn't, very healthy at that point. But if he saw what we were doing now today with the digital stuff, I think it would blow his mind. One of his competitors, which I ended up, after he passed away, I started working with one of his competitors. They started the sign business together in 1962. They went their separate ways. He couldn't hand paint, so he was more a digital fabricator. Like he had a Gerber and he had Omega. So he knew more about the digital aspect of it. And when I bought him, I ended up buying him out. He actually ended up making amends with my uncle right before he passed away. I started working for him, and then he comes here now, and he's blown away by what we do. And he was already in the digital field, and he was just he's just like, I can't believe what you're doing these days, with the things we have. I bought a laser engraver, and I'm not knocking makers or anything like that. I bought a laser engraver. It's almost 10 years old. I think I had the first one in my area, and we bought it because it was a tool for making signs and making patterns and making things. And then, once the maker community got a hold of the laser engraver, it took off. Everybody, Glowforge took off. Everybody's got a laser engraver now. Same with CNCs. Not everybody had one because it's new technology, expensive technology. But it's technology. I think in any industry, you have to accept the technology if you want to better improve. And if you want to move forward with your business. I think if you sit back and let technology take off, it gets too far ahead of you, and you got to keep up with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just not sure what I need to keep up with next to stay ahead of things. And
that's the
unfortunately, I think AI has a lot to do with that. I don't know that AI in its current forms is going to last for long, but I think that the current AI will design the next generation of AI that will actually end up, generating things for us. There's Star Trek where you speak out and go, "Hey, computer, make me a thing," and go, and here's the thing in the freaking drawer for you waiting. And I think we're kind of leaning that direction where we can ask AI to model us an object, and then we're missing some integration to pass it on to the 3D printer. But I don't think we're that far down the road from this.
There's a really good. I don't want to promote Joe Rogan's podcast, but there's a very good interview going on right now with a gentleman. His name is Alexander Wang, and he is the kid who started the Scale AI, which is one of the largest AI systems on the planet. As a matter of fact, he was 19 when he started it, and he was a billionaire at 24. He's the youngest self-made billionaire on the planet. But there is a lot. I've actually re-listened to the podcast a couple of times because there's so much information on what it is and what it isn't. And I've learned several things like, oh, I thought this was some magic genie in a bottle that was gonna, T1 Terminator us in the next 10 years, and it's not. But it is a system that needs to be learned, and it needs to be harnessed, if you will.
Right.
My thoughts on AI, and I see it a lot. I get people send me something AI generated, like, can you build this sign? I'm like, that's impossible.
Yeah.
What you're sending me, it's an AI generated image. I physically can't build that. It's impossible. I think that's the bad thing about AI.
Yeah.
It creates things that it's not real world. You can't manufacture or make it in the real world. Does it help with design in like my industry? Yeah, I've used it. I type in, I have a customer come in and they say, hey, I want a logo with a chicken
and an apple crate.
And an apple crate with this in it, and I type that in, and it brings up a relatively good image. But then I can take that idea and make my own off of that idea that works for me and works for the digital things I have, because I've done that and printed it on my printer, and it comes out pixelated, or there's an arm missing, or it places a foot
where a hand should be.
I'm like, why is this foot over here? Bear's got an extra foot, but that's AI. But it gives me a starting point of a logo or a base that I then can create off of that.
That's really,
right.
That's really interesting.
You can trace off of that and get something solid that you can actually work with.
Solid that works and looks good.
The key here that I'm hearing is that he didn't have to spend 3 hours to draw an idea that a client may or may not like. He spent 3 minutes. Is this what you're looking for? And then he can move forward with that. And he didn't waste half a day.
Yeah. I've done that back in the day, we used to do that when we hand drew stuff. We would hand draw things and hand draw logos, and they look at it like, no, we got to start over. And you're sitting there going like, hey. And that's the other that's what I think is good about the digital thing, is you can generate a lot of stuff. And now in today's world, you can just go online and look at logos and ideas. I'm not saying you take somebody's logo. That to me is probably one of the worst things you could do. But you can get ideas and build off of those ideas in the digital world. Back then, you're sitting in a basement with a pencil and you're like, I need to come up with a logo. Now you can go online and put in lawn mowing logos, and you get
10 of them,
10,000 of them.
Yeah.
And you can just draw inspiration, and I think that helps a lot with the digital world and the digital marketing and getting and generating ideas. It definitely helps.
Yeah.
You know what else is kind of interesting is hearing Tom, who I've talked to for the last 10 years almost, but like we often say, like in the maker community, not that Tom's not in the maker community, but
we'll have a discussion about the maker community.
Yeah. But in the maker community, we have always said that, like, oh, CNCs aren't real woodworking. Well, in the last 5 minutes, we heard that like his uncle was like, no, vinyl planners, that's not sign making. You got to hand paint it. You got to, hand carve it with a chisel. So all industries go through this iteration as things get better and faster or more capable.
It's the same as saying back then they used to use a handsaw to cut
a
piece of wood.
Yeah.
Circular saw came out. Everybody didn't say, oh, now you're not cutting the wood by hand anymore, so it's not hand cut. Bullshit. It's the same thing. Right. Yeah, we've see our signs now, but it's more efficient, it's cleaner. You still have to. People don't understand. Oh, you just push a button. Yeah, well, that button to push that button, it took 4 hours to get that file the way it needs to be in order to push
Exactly.
that button to get out a good result on the end.
Yeah.
And they don't see that part.
Yeah.
They don't see
Well,
the computer.
there's also the perspective. I mean, I can understand where people get a perspective like this, because say that you've been working in an industry, say that you've been making signs for the last 30 years of your life. You're a professional, you've done this hand carved, hand painted stuff for the last 30 years, and then suddenly somebody just comes in and it looks like they just push a button and it just magically happens. All the 30 years of experience and hard work, and you have perfected your craft doing it by hand for the last 30 years, and somebody comes in and disrupts it and points out that your skills are no longer relevant in this world, and you're
I think
gonna
that's
want to push
perfect.
back on that. I mean, I think an intelligent person would say, okay, well, I guess it's time to move forward with the world. But if you've been doing that and that's the skill you've perfected in the last 30 years, and you're being told that you are no longer relevant, your skills are no longer useful, then I think it's kind of natural to push back against that technology and say, well, no, but you're not doing it right. You're cheating. Well, I mean, I understand why you feel that way, because you've been,
It's not cheating though.
well, it
It's making it.
feels like cheating.
No, it does. I understand that because I basically started that way. But I look at it as it's making my job easier. I can do
Yeah.
better things. I can do more things,
more
more
quantity.
quality things. I can push the envelope with stuff that I couldn't do by hand. You know,
Right.
and
But
I guess
you didn't
people embrace,
spend
people
35
embrace
years doing it the old way.
And it's special.
That's where you get into a rut, and this is the right way to do things.
Yeah.
And then when somebody just comes in and says, yeah, but the machine can do all that part for you, the part that you've worked so hard at learning these skills, those skills, the computer take over those part. You can just go to design now. And they're like, but this is the whole job.
Yeah, but you know what? And I'll say this: I've made this observation about Tom and his business, and it's very easy to see in this business because I know, and we've all seen people who buy a vinyl cutter, you know, a US cutter. I don't know if that's an actual brand. I might own that one. But you know what? You know, I can buy a vinyl cutter, and I can go to defont.com and get a letter, you know, a font, and I can write "keep out" and
Yeah.
put it on a sign, and I can look at that sign and it says "keep out." But the 30 years experience that my gentleman friend next to me has here, he mentioned kerning, he mentioned things like that. One of the things that Tom does is make it so when you look at one of his signs, and I'm doing air quotes, you don't see his sign because it's perfect and it makes sense. Our brain collects the information and moves on. If the letter's off, then your brain stops and goes, something doesn't look right here. That's what 30 years experience gets you.
Well, that's what 30 years experience of doing it by hand is.
Right.
Now you have a tool that makes it easier, but you still have to, like, we are really big we do a lot of fire trucks, a lot of ambulances and stuff like that, which are all hand done. And guys that do them today, they don't make them look like fire trucks. My experience of doing it by hand, I know what it's supposed to look like.
The hand turn leaf, gold leaf.
And when you get somebody that just buys a plotter and a printer and all that stuff, they don't know what it's supposed to look like.
Right.
The end result, it doesn't look like a fire truck.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just it's another tool, and you got to have these tools. It just makes life easier. And like you were saying earlier, Jeff, that you think it's the right way to do it after doing it 30 years. There's always a right way, but there's a different way that's a better way. That's the way I look at technology.
I agree with you, but I'm just, throwing out the viewpoint as somebody who's done it in one way for 30 years. I can understand why they would feel like the new way is cheating. I mean, and I understand why every time there's an advance in technology, the old guys have been doing it the old way for so long. There's always a solid resistance from the old guys who've been doing it the old way. And psychologically it makes sense. It's like
Oh yeah,
because
yeah,
they
it
don't
does. I
want
mean,
to they don't want to be told that the skills they've perfected for 30, 40 years are irrelevant now because the tool takes care of that part. They don't want
but
to
it,
hear that
but it,
shit.
but it's not. Their skills are being used in a different way. That's why I try.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying earlier. Like,
Right.
you still have to take those skills because digital is not perfect. You still have to have those skills of what things are supposed to look like.
Mhm.
And digitally all the time, it doesn't look great. That's what I was saying about AI. You can put in I need
A foot on your
a
hand.
chicken, whatever, with a hat on, but then it's got 6 hats on it and an extra leg.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
imperfected. It's digital, but if you know what you're doing, what you want it to look like, they're just tools. They're all
Yeah.
just tools to me. And to me, it's
Right.
like I
You can
love.
choose whichever two legs look the best and just erase the other four.
Yeah, yeah.
And with like the way that vinyl went in the music industry, like vinyl is expensive now, and it's a collector. It's a collectible thing. Tom has some he's got memorabilia from all all his family and other businesses and other places. Like one of the most amazing signs that I've ever seen Tom have is sandblasted signs, wooden sandblasted signs before CNCs.
Okay.
Pattern, you pattern it out. I'm assuming it's correct.
Yeah, you would cut a mask. It's like a rubber mask. You cut it by hand. You lay it on there, and wherever the mask was, the sand would just bounce off. It's like a rubbery stuff,
You're
and
literally,
it would carve all around it.
Yeah.
You don't even see anybody doing.
you
sandblasted
can't
signs
make that.
anymore.
You can't make that with a CNC. I don't care how good your software is. You
No,
can get
'cause-
close. You can get really close.
Okay, can you do that with vinyl now?
Well, there is a mask that you can put in a plotter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You can put it in a plotter. You have to use a different knife. Like most plotters will cut with a 45-degree knife. When you go up to a rubber matting, it's a little bit thicker, so you use a 60-degree knife and you can cut through them. It's sandblast mask, but it's on a roll now.
Yeah.
And you can
Okay.
if you make tool paths in your program, you just put it in there, hit cut, you weed it and tape it just like we were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
Put it on the sign. We've done a few. I think the last time we used our sandblaster was probably 7 years ago.
Yeah.
But it also makes it makes those processes specialized now. Like
you get more for them.
yeah, like you can what's the difference between vinyl imaging a door and hand painting a door?
Huge.
What's the price difference between that now?
Huge. Huge, because it's you cut your time down. That's what your tools are for, and that's why digital tools are great.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being more efficient. I can put it in a computer, print it, plot it, and you go stick it on the window. Where we would have to go down there and draw it, paint it. You're talking. I mean,
and you could repeat it for 5 vehicles. You can put the same logo on all 5 vehicles instead of hand painting them, and you're going to have 5 different logos.
I mean, I'm glad that the way digital stuff has gone. It just helps our process a lot better, a lot easier, more efficient. And like I said, I mean, I understand your point where it is hard to say, yeah, that was my skill of doing it that way 30 years. But I also feel those are the guys that are getting left behind because they don't want to change. And I feel like that every day. Like every day in this shop with all these tools and equipment, I feel if you're not learning something every day, you shouldn't be in this industry. You should be learning. You should be advancing. It only makes you a better businessman, a better maker, if you want to call me a maker or not call me a maker.
You're a maker.
Okay, you create things that were not there before. That's
yeah.
It's a very inclusive term.
Well, I mean, I think somebody like me gets looked upon a little bit different in the maker community because I have a full-time business in a shop. So I'm a business. I'm not a maker, but I feel sometimes I'm like I can make just about anything you want me to make. So I feel like I'm a maker. I make signs every day. We make plaques. We make stuff. But when it's a full-time business and that's what you rely on, sometimes I think people look at it. Well, you started out with just a business. No, I started out making things. It just took off.
Well, there's no problem with referring to you as a maker, but you may feel like you don't quite belong in the maker community. And that's because most of the maker community is focused on making content about the entertaining shit that they're doing in their shop. They're
That's where
not
I have a
they're
hard time.
not
And
they're,
he's making money.
well
I'm making money off the product. Makers are making money off the social media and their videos and how they're doing things. I'm trying to cross that bridge. It's just hard when I'm trying to run a business to support 4 guys, me and my wife,
right.
to set up a camera and and a lot of times I think if we had a camera in here and people saw the way our processes were, they would be blown away. But I don't have time for that.
100%.
I don't have fucking time for that.
No. Well, that's where you need like a teenage daughter to come in
Yep.
and follow you around the shop with her camera, because I've seen, and see, that's really, I think, the crux of why the maker community seems to be so hobby and make stuff for fun oriented.
Yeah.
Is because the people who are grinding their ass off making things for business day in and day out have got better things to do. They're already running a business. They're trying to run a
Yeah.
website. They're trying to run their business, trying to manage the customers, trying to deal with
Yep.
this and that and
Exactly.
the supplies. And they haven't got time for this shit.
Mhm.
That's why you don't see as many of the businesses thrive as much on the social media. But this is a bit of a tangent for making, but it's relevant. Is I had my driveway done last summer by a very family organization where there's this one guy who's been doing blacktop for like 45 years, and he's got cousins and nephews and kids and what have yous running around, and it's a big family organization, and about 8 of them show up to do your driveway, and they're all related in some way versus marriage or whatever. But then his daughter was like 19 years old, and she had some jobs that she had to do to work on the driveway. But when she wasn't specifically doing driveway stuff, she was running around with her phone capturing angles and moments of them doing the job. And then she was the one that was the least needed on the team to actually be doing the heavy work.
Mhm.
So they had her doing, and she's the closest one to a teenager that understands social media. So she was
That's fair.
capturing some footage. She was going home and doing the editing, and I saw on their YouTube and their TikTok that there was a reel. It was a 60-second reel of them doing my driveway. It came out a few days after they finished my driveway. And sometimes it's just not something that you can do as the business owner, but maybe if that's something you really want to try to push for, if you think that you could use more business and that being on the social media would drive that business to you, then maybe finding yourself an elder teenager to do that content for you. I mean, it might even be worth having them as a part-time employee to follow me around, capture footage, edit reels, post stuff of what we're doing. You show the process. Watch me do a couple of bits on the computer, watch it coming out on the plotter, watch it getting plastered on the side of the fire truck, and some good glamour shots. Here's your reel. But you kind of need to almost have somebody to do that because you've got better shit to do than play with the camera and the
We
editing.
just found a guy. If you looked at my social media recently, he owns a drone business. He's been coming in and doing some of that stuff for me, and he captures stuff that I'm like, yeah, that's fucking great. But I would have never during my big day. I don't have time to think about capturing that stuff because I'm trying to keep 3 guys going. But he captures stuff. I'm like, this is amazing. Maybe I should hire somebody more full time because he would take it home. I go home at night. I'm done, or I'm on the computer doing estimates and looking at invoices, so I don't have time to go home and do that posting and edit all that stuff. I could, but at the end of the day, sometimes you just want to go home and not even think about running your business for the past 10 hours, but he came in and there was some new stuff on our Instagram where he's done some reels and drone footage and put it together and it comes out great. Um, and we're talking about one of my guys is 20. That's here. Talking about might train him. I'll buy the equipment, a drone. I'll buy the cameras. We're talking about training him because he's here all the time, and he's the guy not on the bottom, but he's the guy that he can do anything. Like he'll help the guy in the fab room, but he'll also be out here doing vinyl, and they'll go out on an install. So he's an all-around like shop guy. He can do anything, and I think adding that to his plate. And at the end of the day, he puts it together and I approve it. And we put it online. I think that's where we're going to go with that because I would like to. I don't know if growing my social media presence would help the business or not. I know it's helped a little bit, but I also don't have. I'm not Al Schultz. I don't have 3,000 followers. I'm not even a third of that.
I don't know. I don't know that Al Schultz has 3,000 followers.
No,
I know the number says 3,000, but I don't think it's 3,000.
No, but I'm saying it probably would help growing. I think it would push us to other areas. I mean, we cover a big spread now, but
it's definitely a portfolio.
I would love to get into more of that and then ship stuff to like the plaques and the custom trophies we make, and I don't know if that would help that or not. I'm not really sure.
Well,
besides just growing followers, I don't know if it would help the business.
I keep seeing stuff. I saw somebody posting on Reddit last week, and they were saying that their business had they'd always been really busy, but for the past few years, their business has kind of slacked off and things were getting kind of slow and kind of quiet. And they couldn't figure out why that was happening to them when some of the other businesses in the area were certainly still thriving. And then somebody pointed out to them, whether it was their teenage kid or something, pointed out to them that a lot of people these days are going on to these places like, Facebook or Instagram, and they're literally searching on there to find people that do the things for them. And if they find you on Facebook and they see cool reels of you plotting this stuff out and putting it on the cars and putting it on the trucks and making the signs, and they're like, oh, cool, that's neat, I like the way that works, that's the guy I want to hire. And the guy whose name is in the phone book gets completely overlooked because a lot of the younger people, and keep in mind, younger people that shop on social media to find people, those younger people are now 25 years old and spending real adult money. So
that's the same way as we changed our lettering style on vehicles. Back in the day, you would want to put your name on there, telephone number, email, website, blah, 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 blah. Now these days, I cut even my own vehicle. It says next gen signs. Because you don't want to know what? Everybody's got that little computer in their pocket, especially young people. They see it, they're going to Google it.
Yeah.
And that's I don't even put phone numbers on anything anymore because I find myself doing the same thing. When I'm away and I pass by a cool restaurant, I'm like, oh shit, what's that name of that restaurant? Google it quick. Now I know when they're open, where they are located, their phone number, what they had to eat this morning.
Yeah, reserve the table.
So, yeah, I can see it's definitely changing that way because I still have guys coming here, old school guys. They want to put a laundry list of stuff on the side of their truck. I'm like, you got 2 seconds to read that thing going down the road, and nobody's reading it anymore. People are screenshotting it and they're Googling you. Less is more,
Yeah.
And I see that what you're saying about that aspect of that of, younger generation, they're not writing down somebody's phone number.
They're not writing down the phone number.
I mean,
they're going online. They're like, oh, this guy does cool shit. This guy, yeah. So
there's some stuff you still want on the side of the truck because you want people to know certain things. Yep. It's like if you put your freaking license number underneath your thing, that tells people that you're licensed and insured, and that gives them the confidence that, that's information you want them to have right up front. Like, I'm licensed. Put my license number on there just because that proves that I'm a licensed plumber or whatever the hell electrician you're doing. But the phone number, no. I mean,
No,
yeah, they're just going to look at the name. They're going to type it into their little Google bar, or they're going to go.
they're not. Websites are obsolete. Even these guys now would. I got a couple clients that love QR codes. I'm like, you could driving down the road. What, they go drive up behind you, try to get a QR code? I don't. We're not in an area where you're in the country. Most of these trucks are parked up long driveways like contractors or whatever. You're not on a city. You're not in New York City where people are walking by and they can scan a QR code. I'm like, you guys are wasting your valuable space on a vehicle. If you're in New York City or Los Angeles, and yeah, it's simple for somebody with a QR code when you're walking by, but I guess there's a time and place for some of that stuff. Like you said,
Right.
information that you can put on a vehicle and not put on a vehicle. But
yeah, nobody's going to take a picture of that code at 60 miles an hour on the side of the freeway. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
And I don't want a code on the table at the restaurant instead of a menu either.
Me neither. Can't stand that.
Yeah.
That needs to die.
Going on a lot.
that needs to die. Just print the goddamn menu. It costs. Yep. I mean, you've got a little tiny laser printer in your office anyway. You paid $300 for it. You print your new freaking menus. If you change the price every week, who cares? It's a couple sheets of paper and some toner. Yep. I don't know.
Well, that's where technology, the whole digital technology has changed things. It's made people totally think about things differently. Especially with your phone. It's just crazy what phones can do. Even now, the editing software on some of these phones, you want to get rid of a shadow, fucking draw a circle around it. Yeah. And hit delete shadow. You want to get rid of a person in the background. It's just crazy. Yeah. And that's where I think any business that's not striving to change digitally and keep up with technology is going to fail eventually, because it's just so different than back 30 years ago. Like I said, it's crazy how we used to hand paint everything. It's like,
right. And it took all damn day.
Yeah, we used to do 1-2 trucks a week. Now we do 15 trucks a day sometimes. I mean,
exactly.
But it's print and repeat. I mean, sometimes they're the same 3 trucks, but I can print all 3 in an hour. My guys can weed tape it, clean them, prep them, and they're out the door. It's not like, all right, we got to put this layer on and paint it because we got to wait till tomorrow till the paint dries so we can put the next layer on it. It's definitely helped. Do I miss some of that hand stuff? Yeah. It's not everybody. That's the other bad thing about with digital stuff is with the new software and new programs, everybody thinks you got to put a drop shadow, an outline, a fade, a glow around, and it's too much. Less is more when it comes to this. That's what I miss about with painting stuff is you couldn't do all that stuff. Number one, you didn't have the time to do it. Number two, the customers didn't want to pay for all that stuff. But you get these guys that create these things that are just mind blowing. Then it goes down the road. You're like, what the hell did I say?
It looked like a blur.
Because they took every function they had in that design software and applied it to that letter, and it's like, no.
That's what now you can't read it in the third of a second as that truck goes flashing by the other direction.
Yeah. With all this technology and all this advancement and all this capability, we seem to have forgotten that the weakest link is the human mind. We can't process information visually and mentally as fast as digital can create.
Yeah.
So to Tom's point, the more complicated and busy a sign gets, your brain just turns off.
Yep.
You just don't even see it.
Right. You're looking at it as art. You're no longer reading it.
Yeah. Correct.
It got too busy, and now it's a Jackson Pollock painting, and you're enjoying the artwork, but you're no longer reading the information that the sign was meant to convey. And
that's the problem.
Signs are meant to convey information.
Yeah.
That's the problem with today's software. It just makes things too easy to add and add and add. It's like you got to stop adding it. And my uncle was always big on that. He always would say less is more. Keep it simple. It's just got to look good and get the message across. And like I said, these machines definitely make it easier, but it makes it too easy to add all that unnecessary stuff.
which is interesting. Why do you think we do things like add all this stuff? It's a very good point, because the essence of design, like furniture design, whether it be post-war or mid-century modern or whatever, but the essence of design is to design a thing, either on sketch or actually build it, and then as the maker, you look at it and say, what can I take away from this and reduce it to its simplest, purest form? Uh, David Picciuto is very big on this process. So while we're building equipment to complicate it more, the design process becomes less and less, or minimalized. Minimalized. Excuse me.
Minimized?
Minimal. Like, in other words, you don't need, like, even in a piece of furniture, do you need that arch there? Do you need the angle here? Like, and it kind of Four Eyes Furniture is another one. You watch his design, because he's another one. He's a good one that videos beginning to end the whole process.
Yep.
So you start with the idea, and then you start with as he renders it down, and then you end up at the end, you get the glamour shot, and it's like, oh yeah, you didn't need that curve, you didn't need that leg that way or anything. And the essence of design is minimalizing things down to, what do you need it to do, and does it look good doing it?
Yeah.
Tom needs to design signs that look good, give the information the customer needs to give, and they are, like, his signs are timeless. Like the sign you did for Ghent Wood Products up the road here. I'll have him send you a picture of it for the thumbnail. It just is a piece of artwork, but it's exactly what it needs. It's the company name. You can look at the sign and you know what that company does. You don't even have to look off the road and see that it's a sawmill.
Right.
But it's not there's not a bunch of things going on. It's minimalist is not, that sounds like it's inexpensive or cheap, and that's not what I'm trying to say. It's
Simplistic.
It's
you have the information you need.
minimalistic for design, not in the quality.
Well, and it's like we were talking about earlier. It's, you look at it and your brain doesn't have to figure out what it is. Your brain just knows what it is because it looks right, it feels right, it flows right, and the information is projected correctly. Whereas, yeah, you could have done branches and trees and trucks hauling. Like we all have, Tom and I have friends who have businesses. We have friends, a few. There's one or two of them.
That's news to me.
Yeah, we have acquaintances who put imaging on their vehicles, and it's, I was guilty of it. My first landscape company, my truck said snow plowing, fall cleanup, spring cleanup, fertilizing, mowing, bagging, leaf cleanup, tree, and septic systems. It's like,
you don't have to list all that stuff. Yeah.
So you spend more time just messing the side of your truck up, and I'm sorry, trucks are $80,000 now.
Yeah.
So the less is more, like Tom is saying. I'm trying to reiterate what he's saying, but I'm trying to give examples of how it actually works. My point is, we see it every day, and the reason we don't think about it is because it works.
Yeah.
And
right.
that's what makes a sign maker's in the word.
Yeah.
Versus someone who bought a Glowforge or bought a CNC or bought a plotter. You know what I mean? That's
right.
Again, you can't that 30 years, don't throw that 30 years away. Your experience,
That's I think where things are going sideways here, is the fact that the cost of some of these machines has come down to the point where it's a reasonable investment for some people. And the bar for entry into plotting something and sticking it on a vehicle, the bar for entry is fairly low. It's something you can just jump into on your own with no experience, no knowledge, and specifically no experience with design.
I was going to
You
say
can
this
jump
is
in and use these machines and have no idea what
yeah.
design is, what kerning is, what that, I mean, somebody can just buy a plotter and
Yep.
say, I want to put a sign on a fire truck, and they're going to pick Comic Sans, and
Yeah.
it's going to
It
look
don't belong
like shit
Hang,
because
hang on, I
they
use Comic
don't,
Sans, guys.
they,
Take a note. No more Comic Sans.
Yeah, but you know what? To your
Not
point,
for
you make
fire
a good
truck.
point. Yeah, you can get in there and you can do that. And you know what? I did it. I have a plotter. I don't use it. I'm actually waiting for him to get one out of storage that's 15 years old. I'm going to buy a good quality machine from him eventually. But there is a difference between, like, yeah, you can buy that plotter and you can letter that fire truck, but they're not going to come back to you next year for that again because you're not going to do it right. Just because you buy a football, which you can get at Walmart, doesn't mean you're going to play in the NFL.
exactly.
I mean, in the same aspect, it's the same as like Jeff was saying that everything, all this cost of these things have come down to where they're affordable, and you buy them. It doesn't mean
Have they?
No.
That's my
The
point.
professional-
Like,
the
these
professional-
these prices haven't come down.
No, but what I was trying to get at is it's the same as you can buy this stuff. It doesn't make you a sign maker. That 30 years of experience makes you a sign maker. Just like a guy can go buy a circular saw at Lowe's
Mhm.
and put carpenter on the side of his truck.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean he's a carpenter because he just bought a saw.
right.
No,
right.
exactly.
And that's where technology has changed a lot of that because it's also getting cheaper the stuff to build because when laser engravers first came out, mine sitting here in the city, like I said, I got 10 years ago, was $30,000. But now you can go buy a Glowforge for $2,000 or $3,000. It's like,
And how much was that little 60-watt tiny thing you had? Probably cost more than this one when it was new.
which one's that?
The little epilogue thing you had way back when?
Yeah, that was ridiculous. And it was
Tiny. It wasn't even a size of a Glowforge, and it was probably $40,000.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing. I mean, my 56-inch plotter, it's a Graphtec, it's a well-known plotter. That's $9,000, but you can buy a Cricut for I don't even know how much, probably like $1,500. Does that make you a sign person? No.
Crickets are a couple hundred.
Yeah. Crickets are a couple hundred.
Are they really?
Well, they're little.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah.
They're the size of an inkjet printer. So, I mean, you're feeding standard size 8x11 sheets of paper, vinyl through it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
They
not,
can't do rolls
you're
or
not
anything.
doing 36-inch anything on it. But, I mean, if you can simplify your design to fit on 8x11 sheets, you can spend like a couple $100 at Walmart for a Cricut and be pushing out vinyl.
I mean, good for them. Good for that. I mean, I love to see people buy that stuff and be creative, but that doesn't make it goes back to you with the 30 years of experience. I'm a side guy with the tools. You're a crafter with the same tools, but not really. And I'm not knocking them, but that's how digital things have become because the prices have come down so much. I remember like our first program we bought was Casmate. You had to have a dongle for it, so nobody else can use it, and it cost $5,000. And you had a CD and a dongle. You could only run that thing if that dongle was plugged into the computer. It was $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can go online and get a free program to cut vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
That's all changed, and it's changed the perspective of, and that's what I think also changed the perspective of people coming in thinking, well, I can go buy a Cricut and make that. Why is yours so much money? I had one lady tell me once, she came in for one sticker. One sticker. She came in for one sticker, and she was, "How much is one sticker going to cost me?" I'm like, "Probably like $300." She goes, 3 inches round. I'm like, "Yeah." She's all you do is push that button. I'm like, that button is connected to $300,000 worth of just equipment, not counting software, overhead, electric. I said, "You want me to make you one sticker?"
You've already cost me in time.
Go buy it on Etsy or go buy it from somebody else. I can't make it. She said, "Well, what if I buy 300?" I'm like, "It's going to be $300 still." I said, "Because once I make one, it doesn't matter how many I make after that. It's the time to set up and everything in between that you don't see." "Yeah, I just push a button." I said, "That's all I do." You know what? I think you need to go
right.
Find somebody online that has a Cricut or a Glowforge and can make this for you. I don't have time for it.
Right.
But people have that perspective though because of the. And I'm not knocking makers or hobbyists. they buy these things, they put them in the basement, and they can sell somebody a sticker for $1. Well, my
Right.
Uncle Joe, he bought a Cricket and he can make them. I mean, you
Well,
need
they
to have
really
Uncle Joe do it.
they really can't because they're not trying. That's the thing. They think they can make that sticker for $1, but that sticker actually costs them $15 or $20.
Yeah.
But they don't have to keep track and be efficient with their time,
Yes.
and that's fine.
That's fine.
That's
what I'm saying.
fine.
Right.
But
When your
but when
time
I
is
want-
free,
when
then
I
your
want to-
materials are your only cost.
Yeah.
right. But
That's the
when I
joy of
want,
hobby.
here, where what happens is if I want my logo on a sticker, yeah, I could either buy a Cricut and do it, or I can call somebody I know who has a Cricut. I know half a dozen people run Cricuts. But when I want 500 stickers, a person with a Cricut's going to crap their pants.
Yeah,
you know, because they're like,
absolutely.
oh my God, I can't make 500 stickers. Tom can make 500 stickers in 3 minutes.
Exactly.
You know,
Especially if you got a good SVG to start with, and he doesn't have to spend an hour dicking with it.
right.
That's the other,
exactly.
that's the other bad thing
There you
about
go.
digital. is You have a logo, yeah, send you a JPEG, and I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? This ain't camera art ready logos. This is a
Yeah.
JPEG.
Yeah.
Well, where'd you get it from? And well, I made it on Canva or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do anything with that.
Yeah.
I said I'm gonna have to charge you like $500 for artwork
Mhm.
to set this up into vector lines that I can do whatever I want to do with it. I
Mhm.
said I'm gonna take your JPEG. If I blow it up to right now, it's 2 inches by 2 inches. If I blow up to a foot by a foot, you're gonna see little squares. You ain't gonna see a logo.
No,
But they don't understand that.
highly
And then
pixelated.
they say, what kind of file do you need? I'm like, a PDF, SVG, vector, EPA, EPS, AI, and then they'll take a JPEG and they'll send it out as a PDF, but it's still a fucking JPEG inside of a
Or just
PDF.
rename the damn file.
Yeah, like you didn't do anything here.
You can put a Corvette logo on a Pinto hood, but it's still a fucking Pinto.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and that's the other frustrating thing about some of the digital things. People go online, and they mock up stuff on their own, and oh yeah, artwork's all ready to go. I'm like, no, you don't understand. That's not how this works. You know.
Yeah.
But
Right.
The threshold through the door is a tough thing because people don't understand, and it's not.
No.
And you can't yell at them because how would they why would they understand?
No,
You know.
they just don't know.
Yeah.
they don't know.
Like I've known Tom 8 years, 10 years now, and I'm about to ask a question. What's the difference between a vinyl printer and a vinyl plotter?
A plotter is it cuts vinyl.
Okay.
There's a knife in it. It does 360 degrees. You can set
It's
the
a
pressure.
drag knife, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
A vinyl printer prints on material,
Okay.
but then you have the rolling behind us. That's a print cut, so I can print in there. You got to laminate it. I can put it back in there, and that machine will cut it. They have just ones that just print. They have ones that do print cut, and then I have a Gerber to my right here. That's a thermal printer that will just print. You have to put it in the other plotter next to it that cuts it. Thermal printer. It's a ribbon, melts the ink off the ribbon into the vinyl, so it don't need to be laminated. The Solvent EcoSol printer behind us, that you print it, and it's like inkjet basically. You have to laminate over top of it, or the ink will just basically after 6 months fade away. There's no UV protection on it. It's just ink laying on top.
So you literally have to laminate everything that comes off of this
Off
printer?
of that machine, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Has to
See,
be
there's
laminated.
a step that
Okay.
you're not going to do that on a Cricut.
Nope.
And the laminator, that's that thing out there, right?
Yeah, and the
That thing's as big as the printer.
yeah, well, it has to be
Or bigger.
because it will
It
print
has
up
to be. You don't want to
Yeah,
feel
it has to
Yeah,
be.
well, that makes sense. Yeah.
60-inch roll, so
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't put a
yeah.
60-inch roll in a 24-inch machine.
Well, these are the things that and those are for wraps, right? You print a wrap and then
You can we print decals on that too. It's all what material you have in there. Wrap material is different than decal material.
Well,
Wrap-
that was the other thing I was gonna if it's even feasible, if you could just do a thumbnail on vinyl type and what you would use it like is wrap vinyl like flexible
Yes.
more than,
So wrap
than
vinyl-
sign vinyl or
wrap
whatever?
vinyl is conformable. It's air release.
What's that mean?
So in the back of it, you can't see it. It has micro little channels. So when you have a 54-inch wide by 10-foot
Mhm.
people call them stickers, and I hate being called stickers. It's a decal or a wrap. When you have that big air releases, you just push it out. All the bubbles will go out. You got to start from the center out or one side to the other, and all the air just
when you're squeegeeing
follows
it
those
out.
channels.
Okay.
If you have like high tack vinyl or for decals or truck lettering, that is a permanent base adhesive. It's not air. It holds better. It grips better. It sticks. You if you get a bubble in the middle of that, you have a bubble in the middle.
You're
of that.
done.
You're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
So wrap materials conformably, you can bend it around corners.
Like mirrors and everything.
You can bend it around anything. And
Yeah.
color change has become really big. That's all air release conformable vinyl. Then there's die cut vinyl, which is you put in the plotters. That is not air release. That's more of a permanent base adhesive. That you want to let your review if you can. Digital print's okay, and digital wraps and stuff are okay, but you get 5 to 8 years out of that technology.
Mm-hmm.
I've lettered trucks with die cut because it's the same color all the way through. You're just cutting it and applying it. I've had trucks out there 15, 20 years with the same vinyl on it because it's gonna it can't fade because it's the same color all the way through.
Right.
It does get chalky, whatever, but those are, and then there's different breakdowns. Even that there's calendar and cast. Calendar's cheaper.
Yeah.
There's different here.
I've seen you wrap carbon fiber.
Yep, there's a couple different carbon fibers. It looks like carbon fiber.
It's
fiber.
crazy.
It feels
crazy.
like carbon
yeah,
fiber.
like you can run your hand on it and it feels wet, like weaved.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, same thing with technology with all that vinyl stuff. It changes every day. Even messing with LEDs and sign boxes and stuff like that. That stuff changes every day. Now there's, because I'm a sign guy, I follow a lot of things on Facebook for sign guys, and now they have this new technology. Just LED, it's the LED stuff that you see a lot of makers making LED, and everybody calls it LED neon. Old sign dogs get pissed off. They're like, it's not neon, it's not glass tubes, it's little diodes. Stop calling it LED neon. It's LED strip lights. And that controversy is so funny. I look at it online. I'm like, who cares?
Yeah,
it's a different form. Is it neon? No.
Yeah,
but
CNC's not woodworking.
Yeah.
It's not real neon. Well, that's why we call it LED neon. Basically, it's LED.
That's why I'm not dead either, because neon will kill you.
But I mean, they're LEDs designed in a way to make it look like neon is the end result.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
And you're implementing that in the signs now?
Yeah, we not using it as much. I want to start dabbling in it a little bit more, but I've used it on some signs. We did some neon signs. They were neon signs, and we replaced the neon with the tube. Going down the road in a speeding bus.
Can't tell.
Looks like neon.
Exactly.
It served the purpose. You don't have to worry about it breaking. Car wash sign. That was one of the ones he was having more problems with that every year. The transformers go, the glass tubes would break. He came to me and said, "Can we put the neon, the LED stuff in it?" I'm like, "Yeah." That was 3 years ago, and that sign still looks the day we put it up.
It looks brand new.
And he was having problems with that every 6 months.
Yeah.
So the technology, like Jeff was saying earlier too, those old neon guys, they don't want to admit or say my skill of bending neon is not the the right way to do it anymore. That's their way, and
right.
That's the way they're gonna be because that's the way they were taught.
Your signs just don't buzz the way they're supposed to.
Yeah, they don't break in the wintertime when they get really fragile. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
And
how dare you?
In a world where things are going a billion times faster than they were even when we were kids, I can only imagine what grandparents and great grandparents have to be thinking in these days. It's a big investment to learn a skill like sign painting or sandblasting, or who's going to invest? These are artisans. These people don't exist anymore.
That's one bad thing about technology too. Is the schools in the past 5-10 years they pushed. You need to learn technology based jobs, and they got away from the trades. And I think it needs to come back. In this business, it's weird. One day you're welding, next day you're working with wood, next day you're wrapping a vehicle, next day you're out digging holes, next day you're a carpenter, next day you're an electrician because you're doing LED signs. We cover so many different hands-on things, welding. There's a lot of skill sets that go into building a sign. It's not just one thing. You have to be very diverse, and it's a good skill, and it's a good skill to carry on to other industries because you're not just doing one thing. You're not, and that's what one of my guys I just got. He was a welder, and he sat at a factory making airplane parts in the same spot, just bzz, 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 all day long, and he got so annoyed with it, burned up. Came here. I said, "Well, we build signs. You're not going to weld every day." And he's like, "All right." He's been here 2 years, and he's like, I would never go back to just welding. He knows how to spray a gun now, spray sides. He's out on installs. He's like, every day's different. And that's what's great about this industry and technology. Every day you're learning everything. Every day you're doing something different. It's not the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I think schools need to go back to training kids some of these trades instead of saying, you got to learn about technology and you gotta learn how to use a computer. You got they don't even teach kids how to write their name in cursive anymore. I don't know how or why. I had one kid in here. I wrote a note to go pick up something. He calls me. He's like, "Hey, I can't read your note." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I got good cursive writing. He goes, "They never taught us cursive. I don't know what it says." I'm like, "You fucking kidding me?"
Take a picture of it. Take a picture of it with Google Translate or whatever the hell, whatever the photo translation is, and they'll convert it to normal print numbers for you.
But that's why you guys, your podcast is about digital stuff, and it's great in some aspects, and some aspects digital's not all that.
Yeah.
Learning to write your name in cursive, I think, is pretty important instead of having Google translate it for you.
Well,
how do you write a check? Well, I guess they don't write checks anymore these days.
They don't.
They tap their phone on the little iPad thing and whatever it is, and they pay and run their way.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the only real use of cursive is interacting with legacy stuff. I mean, old stuff. I mean, if you want to pick up some old handwriting and be able to read that, you need the cursive. But to be a modern person in the modern world, I mean, the only thing I use cursive for in my entire life is a scribble, which at one point was a cursive representation of my name when I do a signature. I mean, it's a scribble now, but I mean, it started as a cursive Jeff Stein on the paper, and now it's just this little scribble that basically kind of vaguely represents the cursive shape of some of those letters. But that's the only cursive that I use at this point in time, and I don't know that there's really any value in teaching kids how to do that other than interacting with old people's notes. I mean,
that's true.
Here's a good. I saw an article, a video article here, probably a month or so ago. My wife and I were talking about this because we just went to DC on vacation here last year, and went to the archives and all that kind of stuff. There was an article that I showed my wife that the Federal Archives, I forget the official name of the building, but the building where all our the Declaration is and all our history and all that kind of stuff. They're looking for people to digitize into print the Declaration of Independence, all the Magna Carta, all these things, because people don't know how to read. They come see it and they can't read it now.
Yeah,
like
they need the translation next to it.
They need a translation in print next to it.
They don't need people for that. AI will do it.
So well, and then all of a sudden AI
it's going to add an extra leg there.
Yeah. And you don't want AI adding an extra amendment.
No. Well, they'll add something that benefits themselves,
or removing an amendment, or rewording it.
Add a couple of words to.
Yeah, because a couple of words could change a lot of history.
Exactly.
Very true.
So yeah, I mean, it's like saying you don't need to know how to drive a stick. Well, you don't need to, but are you really going to put automatics in everything?
Well, they kind of are.
you have to special order vehicles now. You can't get a Volkswagen unless you spec it as a standard. It will come automatic unless you order it.
I think there's some vehicles that don't come with automatics. Things that are
Yeah.
definitely listed as sports cars.
Yeah.
A lot of those are just that they've always been made as manuals, and they won't make an automatic version of them. I don't remember which ones are which, but
It'd have to be pretty high up because even the big dogs are doing paddle shifts and all that stuff now.
I don't know. I can drive a stick, definitely.
Yeah.
And I enjoy a stick. However, I don't want to drive one in traffic because it's just an absolute pain in the leg to be in and out of first gear, second gear, and stop and go traffic.
It's
awful.
I again, just like technology, we were talking about how digital fabrication helps our businesses and stuff like that. I started plowing snow 40 years ago in a 4-speed Chevy, and let me tell you, your left leg looks like Popeye at the end of the night.
Exactly.
You plow 10 hours clutching all night. Woo.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick before we start moving into things of the week and that kind of stuff. Tom, what are some basic differences in sign styles? Like explain, like we've talked about vinyl and wraps and stuff like that, but explain light boxes and push throughs and what all that is. Because I don't think people understand what they're looking at. Again, a good sign is you don't even realize what you're looking at, whether it's a light box or a push through or a billboard with whatever on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, but we do a gamut of them. We do carved signs, basically same thing. Talking about technology, years ago, all our carved signs were wood or cedar. Now we use HDU. It just lasts longer.
Plastics, foams.
It's foams, plastics. It just lasts longer. People that come in now and they say, I want a real wood sign, and I always say to them, are you going to go outside and coat it every year? Because about a year from now, it's wood. It's going to crack, break, split. So we do carved signs. We do it now. We do them at a HDU. We do MDO signs, which is just basically a waterproof plywood that you edge coat, cut the size, cut it to shape. We can do that in the router, paint it and put vinyl on it, no dimension. Then we do like aluminum composite signs where the frame's all built out of 1x1 aluminum tube that we TIG weld together, skin it with ACM. I don't know if anybody here knows what ACM is.
Is that the plastic metal?
Yep.
Dibond.
Dibond's a brand, but we make a lot of signs out of that, and then we'll put raised PVC lettering on it, which digital helped us with that because now we used to cut all those. I hate to say, I'm gonna bring them up. Man. Jimmy DeResta.
Yeah.
We used to cut all those letters out of fucking bandsaw, just like he did. Now we throw them on the goddamn CNC, and it cuts out. You cut out 10 alphabets.
Yeah,
and is the hand thing gone of cutting them on a bandsaw? Yeah, but when you're trying to make money and get out 10 of those, so we make aluminum composite signs with raised PVC lettering. Then you move into electrical signs where they're just light up boxes with Lexan faces with LEDs inside. Used to be halogen bulbs. Now we put up a LED sign like that. Number one, is way more cost efficient with electricity, where the technology changed. You can't even get bulbs for signs anymore.
Right.
You have to convert old signs to LEDs now. But the LEDs, like I said, a lot less cost for the consumer on the electric end, and you don't have to go back and service the sign. Sometimes you put bulbs in, 6 months later the bulb's blown. Now you're paying a service fee to put bulbs in. So those are LED boxes. We do push through, which you help us a lot with that because we only have a 4x4 CNC. Someday I'll have a bigger one. So we push through is basically you take an aluminum face, you cut the lettering out, and then you route out the acrylic to push through the front of it. We just did one the other day that you helped us with. That's a push through sign.
And then you put lights inside the box.
Put the LEDs behind it. So the whole box ain't lit up, just the letters are lit up. Where a light box, the whole face is lit up.
Oh, okay.
So that's the difference there. I mean, there's so many more different versions, but those are all the main kind of signs.
What are the signs that, like, Radio Shack used to be. Well, now
Those are
now I'm showing my age.
channel letters.
The letters were the sign.
Yep,
Yeah.
those are channel letters. We make those. Those are, and then there's different kind of channel letters. There's facelit channel letters. There's reverse lit channel letters. There's edge lit channel letters. Now there's reverse halo lit letters, which are not channel letters. They're reverse halo lit letters, where we manufacture those all out of aluminum. Take them, make a pan, shine the LED in the back of them, so it has a nice glow around it. Which back 15 years ago, that wasn't even around. It didn't exist because of the LEDs came out. It made it easier. So that's where you got to keep up with stuff, with technology and how things change. Because if you're not, like I said earlier, you're just gonna end up fading away. Because people want that stuff these days. It's just crazy.
And the interesting thing is that people don't know that that's what they want. They come in and say, "Hey, I want the sign that looks like," but he has to know what type of sign they're actually talking about. Because they're not going to come in and say, "Hey, I want a reverse halo lit LED sign that says blah 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 blah."
I'm actually working on a form right now. I've never had one. It's an intake form, just like when you go to the doctor. You sit there, you fill out, have you been out of the country? Why are you here? So mine's gonna be a little bit different. I don't care that you're out of the country, but basically you're gonna put all the important information: your business name, do you have a logo, what kind of sign you're looking for, what's the location, is it on a building, is it single sided? Because I'll get people on my website, which is a great thing. They'll put in, need a sign. That's what I get for a request.
You make signs?
And
I'll have
then
one of
it's 7 emails later, I finally get a size out of them. And if it's single sided or double sided, it's still pulling teeth on what kind. Well, I really don't know what I want. I'm like, boy. Go on the website, look at signs.
Start by sending me a picture of where you want the damned sign.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you can see, is he showing you a wall that it goes on the wall, or is he showing you his front yard where people are going to drive by it from both sides? And maybe you can figure out what he needs.
Yeah, and not only does Tom have to pull your creativity out and figure out how it applies mechanically to him as a maker. Now he has to go, yeah, that would be an amazing sign, and I can make it beautiful. But you know what? Legally, you're not allowed to put it there because of municipality rules or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so he's got to go through all that too. On top of, man, you're doing a lot of shit.
Oh, you want a job?
No, he's been trying to get me to work for him for years. He pretty much gave up. He's like, fuck that guy.
Yeah, we do a lot of that stuff too. We pull a lot of permits. So once again, that's where the digital thing comes in great too, because I can do spec'd out digital layouts on the computer and hand them to a municipality saying, this is exactly what the sign's going to look like. Back before this, you were hand sketching something on a paper.
Yeah.
And you handed it to somebody and they just couldn't get what a 2D thing is on a piece of paper. It looked like 3-dimensional in their yard, or even a town couldn't understand that. But now you hand them these things and you can rotate it and it's a whole drawing and they're like, oh, okay. This, we know exactly what this is going to look like. Okay, we'll approve that. You don't have to try to sit there and explain to a town. You can just show them images and files and everything you created digitally, and the scale. Like, I'll go out and do site surveys. I'll render their sign right on their piece of property. So when I go to the town, I'll be like, oh, okay,
this is the actual building it's going on.
It's a lot less fight, because they know what this sign's going to look like, and then you get it approved quicker. Where back in the day, you're just hand sketching something on a piece of paper.
For people listening, it's kind of it's a similar technology to if you shop on Amazon and you want to see what the coffee pot's going to look like on your counter. You can literally, in Amazon now, you can take a picture of your counter and it'll put the product you're looking for on the counter. So you can see if it matches and stuff. It's similar to that.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're going to be able to see. Yeah, man, you really do a lot.
Too much.
God, we need to go make some ribs and have a beer.
Doesn't sound like a bad plan.
Sounds like a solid plan for.
I got 2 racks in the fridge right now for tomorrow.
All right.
Well, I'm out of questions, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, it's hitting lunchtime. We should probably jump into the things of the week and see what we got to recommend.
Yeah. Anybody got anything off top? I can go first real quick. It's totally off subject, but
Sure. Go ahead.
okay. Before we started recording, we were talking about the P word, politics, if you will. And I remembered Jeff gave me some really sage advice, and I appreciate that. But I do remember on Instagram there is a channel or a site, or I don't even know what it's called on this. What do you call it? Channel? A feed? Feed.
Yeah.
There's an Instagram feed called All Sides Now. And what All Sides Now does, to as much as you want to put faith in any kind of news, is they will pick a subject that's in the news, and then they will say, this is what the conservative right news people are saying, this is what the liberal left news people are saying, this is what the centrist news programs are saying. And it's what everybody's saying about the same subject, which kind of gives you the ability to go, oh, okay, this side thinks this side thinks that, rather than trying to form your own opinion at the backyard fence with your neighbor you don't agree with. This is what the actual news outlets are saying on all sides, which I like.
It's nice to hear all sides of something for a change.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't you remember when the news used to tell us the facts and we used to figure out how we felt about it?
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what all sides
now they tell us how we're supposed to feel about it, and we have to figure out what the actual facts are.
Exactly, and that's why I like this feed, and they don't try to swing you left, right, middle. They're just like, this is what everybody's saying about this subject, and I'm like, thanks. That's all I fucking asked for.
That's why you turn the news off.
That's why I turn it. I don't watch the news anymore except to get the local weather.
I'm going to follow that. Why don't you give us the name of that one more time?
It's All Sides Now.
All Sides Now.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to follow that one. Right. What do you got, Tom?
I just got support your local business.
Okay.
Because it kind of falls into your digital marketing, where people can go online now and they can order something from across the country or somewhere else, and all you're doing is supporting a big corporation that don't care about you as an individual person. I think we all need to support each other more locally, and that's really it. I mean, we try to, anybody that buys something from us, a sign, for a restaurant or carpenter or lawnmower. I mean, I can't have 17 guys mowing my lawn because we do about 50 lawnmower companies, but we always use somebody that uses us. And I think paying it forward or paying it back is not what it used to be with the digital age, because you can go on Amazon and buy something and not support somebody local. And God bless Jeff Bezos. He's a millionaire, but I don't think he needs any more of anybody's money.
No.
You think he's good?
I think he's good. Tom, next year time can do some.
I am actively trying to scale back my Amazon usage as much as possible. Yeah. I'm trying to buy things more from the companies. I mean, I'll still use Amazon as a place to find the stuff I want. But once I find something I want and pick a brand that I think looks good, then maybe go to the brand's website and try to buy it from them instead of enhancing.
It's Jeff a good Bezos. Thing. I mean, I get people in here all the time about, well, I can get this banner online for half the price. I'm like, yeah, you're supporting some guy in it could be China, it could be another country. I'm like, yeah, that's all they do, and that's all they do all day long. I'm glad you're supporting them, but I'm not going to not make money to keep you here. To me, it's like we support each other as businesses, and I think that's important. I think it's very important.
Yeah. And Tom has a feed on Instagram called Num Num Toms, NUM Toms. He'll send you the link also. And he does. He goes to, him and his wife go to all these restaurants and they post. It's not a food critic site, but it's promoting everybody.
It's promoting local. That page I use to promote the businesses that come here. Right before the podcast started, a local business right down the road, he makes crystal clear ice. we do his work, and he brings me ice, and I try to promote him, and I think it's a good thing, and I try to use that page to promote those companies that help me. And we do go to a lot of restaurants. We go to a lot of wineries or breweries, and and if that business has been to me, I tag them. I try to show the love, and I think it's the right thing to do. I mean, I've been a big opponent of that. I just think it's the right thing to do in my mind. So.
And if you're 100 miles from Tom, he knows the restaurants to eat at. Because he eats at them all, and you can trust his word.
All right. Well, I'm a big fan of shopping local and supporting local businesses. I think that's a good choice.
What do you got?
I have this week I've got a website that I'm going to recommend that I think is very useful for anybody who makes things, whether you're DIY or professional. The website is for people who like to glue things together. It's called thistothat.com, and it's a pretty basic website. It's got a couple of drop downs, and you choose what you want to attach and what you want to attach it to. So, I mean, it's got ceramic, fabric, glass, leather, metal, paper, plastic, rubber, styrofoam, vinyl, and wood in both columns. And you can choose it, say, oh, well, I want to glue leather to metal. Then you hit those in the drop downs and hit the Let's Glue button, and it'll give you a list of adhesives that are best suited for gluing leather to metal. So
that's cool.
Whatever it is you need to glue, I mean, if you're gluing wood to wood, you use wood glue, obviously. But I mean, if you want to glue dissimilar materials, this will give you the answer as to which adhesives are the best for that combination of strange shit that you're trying to put together.
So does Titebond make a leather to acrylic glue?
I don't know.
That's a good. There's more digital, like that's information that an old artisan in a garage somewhere knows that nobody else knows.
Yeah, well, some old artisan made a website with that information, and now if you go to this to that, it'll tell you exactly the best way to glue this to that.
That's really cool.
That's a cool one. I like that one.
I'm gonna put that one in the saved top.
Okay. Yep. Let's see. I like to ask everybody what their dream tool is. If you could have any one tool delivered for free, what would you add?
What would I add? Yeah. I would add a CNC plasma cutter.
CNC plasma? Those look cool.
Yeah.
Those look like fun. If I did a lot of stuff with metal, I'd probably want one of those.
We do, and it would make. I'm going to bring his name up again. I run to Jimmy's all the time to use his.
It's totally fine.
I feel like I pester him. Hey, Jimmy, can I run over there and cut this metal real quick?
We have not made it through an episode without someone mentioning Jimmy, and it's never just because we felt like mentioning Jimmy. It's just because he came into the conversation because he's. I don't know.
I would love to have a CNC, like I said, CNC plasma cutter. I go over and use his, and I watch that thing cut metal, and I design stuff here in COVID, and it just cuts it perfect. I'm like, you know how long this would have took me? Here we go with digital stuff again. You know how long would it took me to cut that by hand?
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing like we do 1/4-inch steel letters, and we drill and tap the back of them and paint them and put them on buildings. I'm like, for us to cut those, you couldn't. You can't, it just there's no way to do it, and that thing just cuts them like butter. It's the greatest thing ever. Now that we have a little more room because we added on to the shop, I can see that in my future.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's about lunchtime. We should probably start wrapping this thing up. So I definitely.
I don't get a thing of the week.
A dream tool? Dream tool?
I don't get a dream tool.
Oh, well, do you have a different dream tool every week, Al? I figure.
No, I don't. Well, it just gets me thinking about like things I can't do. But
well, I mean, last time was you were dream tooling about bamboo printer, and you've pretty much committed to buying one at this point, I think.
I have. I'm going to buy an A1 with AMS, and we're going to do an entry level 3D printer. But yeah, Tormach. That's man. I've just been watching videos on them this week, and I'm like, God, I gotta get one of them.
Yeah. That's a definite cheap and easy $300 Walmart purchase, right?
Yeah. I think you can get them
Like
on
the Cricut?
Amazon.
Like the
They're the
Cricut.
same price as a Cricut, right?
Yeah, I think Cricut makes one.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Oh, crack it.
Crack it. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So I'd like to thank Tom for coming on the show. And everybody who enjoyed the episode should go follow Tom on, let's see, you're on Instagram and a couple places.
Yep, Next Gen Signs, and num_num Toms.
Okay.
We have a web page under Next Gen Signs Inc. Come take a follow, take a look, see what we do, and
Harass them.
harass me.
Exactly.
Reach out if you have any kind of sign questions. I'm more than willing to help people. I mean, that's the other bad thing about our industry is like everybody feels like we all have secrets. You know, we can't. That's the difference between the maker community and like the sign community. Sign guys are like they don't want to share information. Maker community, everybody's sharing everything, and I don't mind sharing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to affect my business any. It's not like Jeff's right next door to me. If I tell him how to build a sign, nobody's going to order a sign from where you are from me.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't mind helping guys out with technology and questions.
Okay, so people should hit you up if they've got a JPEG of a logo they'd want a $3 sticker made, right?
Perfect. Send them my way. I'll take care of them.
Cricut.com.
Exactly.
That's the answer you're going to get.
Where do we find you so I can
Forward that.
add that link in there?
Exactly. All right. So I also need to thank Al for taking the time to hang out. And I need to thank all the listeners for taking the time to tune in. And I need to have a huge thank you for our current patrons for their support. So many thanks to Adam from BKR Customs, Ed Swanson of Ed's Clocks and More, and Eric from Overall Makerworks. If you enjoyed listening and would like to help support the show, you can share it with your friends, leave a review, or join our Patreon. Our Patreon is at patreon.com/digifabricators. And we have a Discord server open to all of our listeners. Our patrons also get access to an exclusive patron channel in our server where they get to hear about our next guest before it becomes public knowledge. Direct links to our Discord server and Patreon page are in the DigiFabricators Instagram bio, which you should also be following at Digi-Fabricators. If you or someone you know does cool things with their digital tools, please let us know. We've only got so many friends to invite, and then we will need your suggestions to keep the show going. I can be found most places as a weird guy, and Al can be found under New York Woodworks, which is NY Woodworks with an X. So thanks again to everybody, and we will catch you on the next episode. Sweet. Nailed it.